As discussed lately in the news, Trump is threatening to apply tariffs to Canada. If the United States were to apply tariffs to Canada, several significant economic, political, and social consequences could arise. Here's a breakdown of potential impacts. 1. Impact on trade between the US and Canada. Increased costs for consumers. Tariffs would likely increase the price of goods imported from Canada. For example, products such as vehicles, agricultural products, and industrial goods might become more expensive for US consumers and businesses. Trade flow disruptions. Canada is one of the US's largest trading partners, and tariffs could disrupt the flow of goods between the two nations. Canadian exporters would face higher costs to sell to the US, and US importers would also be burdened with higher tariffs, leading to a potential decline in cross-border trade. 2. Impact on Canadian economy. Reduced export sales. Canada is highly reliant on the US as its largest trading partner. Tariffs could significantly hurt Canadian industries, especially those that depend on exports to the US, such as automotive, agricultural, and natural resources sectors. Currency fluctuations. The Canadian dollar might weaken in response to the imposition of tariffs, as investors could view the tariffs as a sign of economic strain. A weaker Canadian dollar could make Canadian exports cheaper, but it might also increase the cost of imports for Canadian consumers. 3. Impact on US businesses. Increased input costs. Many US industries rely on Canadian imports as raw materials or components. For example, US car manufacturers depend on Canadian-made parts. Tariffs would increase production costs, potentially raising prices for American consumers or reducing the profitability of US companies. Supply chain disruptions. Industries that rely on cross-border supply chains might experience disruptions, delays, or higher operational costs. This could affect sectors like manufacturing, technology, and agriculture. 4. Economic retaliation. Canadian tariffs on US goods. Canada would likely retaliate by imposing tariffs on US goods, which could hurt US exporters, particularly in sectors like agriculture, e.g. dairy, poultry and grain, and manufacturing. This could escalate into a trade war, with both countries imposing increasing tariffs on each other. Potential World Trade Organization disputes. Canada could bring a complaint before the World Trade Organization, WTO, arguing that the tariffs violate international trade rules. This could lead to arbitration or rulings that could impact the US's trade policies. 5. Political and diplomatic tensions. Strained relations. The US and Canada have historically enjoyed a strong political and economic relationship. Imposing tariffs could strain diplomatic ties and may lead to tensions over issues beyond trade, such as security cooperation, environmental policies, or border security. NAFTA, USMCA. Concerns. Canada and the US are both signatories to the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, which replaced NAFTA. The imposition of tariffs could be seen as a violation of trade agreements and could lead to legal challenges under the USMCA framework. 6. Global impact. Impact on global supply chains. Given the integration of the US and Canadian economies into broader global supply chains, tariffs could have ripple effects on other countries. For example, other nations that trade with both the US and Canada might experience disruptions or increased prices for goods. Changes in global trade patterns. As trade barriers increase between two of the world's largest economies, global trade flows might shift, with other countries seeking to fill the gap left by reduced US-Canada trade. 7. Long-term effects. Investment uncertainty. The imposition of tariffs might create uncertainty in investment markets. Businesses might be hesitant to invest in industries that could be heavily impacted by tariffs or retaliatory measures. Structural shifts in trade. Over time, both the US and Canada might seek to diversify their trade relationships. Canada could strengthen ties with other countries, such as China or the European Union, while the US might focus on securing trade agreements with other nations to mitigate the effects of tariffs on Canadian goods. Overall, imposing tariffs on Canada would disrupt trade, increase costs for both consumers and businesses, strain diplomatic relations, and potentially lead to economic retaliation. It could also have broader global trade implications, depending on the severity and scope of the tariffs. The ultimate consequences would depend on the scale of the tariffs, the industries affected, and the potential for negotiations between the two countries.